I'm a delivery driver, and my latest delivery almost killed me. I don't think my last customer was entirely human. It was my final delivery of the night. I hadn't initially planned on taking any more, but when it popped up, I figured one more wouldn't hurt. I've never been more wrong about anything in my life. I reread the instructions as I waited for the order. Hand food directly to customer. Location, Grand Plaza Hotel, room 1104. I don't usually like delivering to hotels. It can be hard to find free parking, and sometimes you can't even use the elevators without a hotel key. The tip was massive, though. There was no guarantee they wouldn't change it afterwards, but if they didn't, it was going to go a long way towards my food budget for the month. The hotel loomed over me as I pulled in, an imposing figure of dark brick and shadowy stone arches. I couldn't help but notice that of the 15 floors, not a single room appeared to have a light on. The lot was empty, so at least parking wasn't a problem. The only light visible was coming from the lobby, but I couldn't see a single person inside when I approached the glass doors. It was only 8:30 p.m., so I doubted the check-in desk was closed. To my surprise, the doors did open. It was so nice inside. I figured I'd definitely need a room key to use the elevator. There were golden accents in the thick wooden check-in counters. A wide fireplace was flanked by the chairs that were shaped so unnaturally no person I've ever met could have sat in them. I've never understood why many of the older, ritzier hotels always seem to have dark floor-to-ceiling wood paneling, but no windows. The ornate chandelier cast a weak amber light from vaulted ceilings high above my head, but I still couldn't shake the feeling I was in a box and about to be buried 6 feet underground. My shoes squeaked on the marble floor and echoed loudly in the otherwise silent lobby as I looked for any sign of life. The stark silence put me on edge. Where was everyone? Some of the winding hallways off the lobby were completely dark. The longer I stared into the shadows, the stronger the feeling that something was staring back at me. Something that could see me far better than I could see it. Just moments before, I'd been feeling incredibly alone. I found myself longing for that once more. I messaged the customer, wondering if they'd come downstairs. Maybe I could even wait outside. I smiled at the thought. I wanted to be out of there ASAP. Would you like to meet in the lobby? I typed out to them through the app. Hopeful. No. I sighed, and couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me as I sought out the elevator. I pressed the only button anxiously, and it took me a moment to notice the embossed metal below. It said down, despite me being on what appeared to be the ground floor. Sure enough, I could hear the whirring sound of machinery as it approached from beneath my feet. The doors opened to reveal an ancient-looking interior of dark bronze and wood, but there were no buttons, simply what I guessed was a hand crank. I stood there, unsure of what to do for a moment. The door stayed open, appearing to patiently await my decision. I shuddered at the thought of ending up in some weird basement, or worse, between floors, so I reluctantly headed toward the stairs. It hit me when I reached the second floor. If it was a manual elevator, who'd been operating it on those lower floors? I quickened my pace. Looking back, I wish I'd never gone upstairs. I wish I'd just got the hell out of there. Maybe if I turned around and left, my hours wouldn't be numbered. But who knows? Maybe I was doomed from the moment I accepted that order. I complained to myself as I kept climbing upwards, legs burning. At that moment, I was pissed off at everything. I hated the creepy-ass building, I hated the elevator, and I hated the customer for making me walk what would end up being a total of 20 sets of stairs. If I'd known I would be doing that much cardio, I would have brought my freaking inhaler. Further increasing my frustration were the stairs themselves. They started out as wide marble steps in the lobby, but on the second floor transitioned to heavy wood that creaked with each step, tucked into a walled section on the far side of the building. They felt wrong. Some steps seemed wider than others. Some were narrow and shallow, others were steep. It didn't help that the stairwell was poorly lit either. The customer kept messaging me over and over as I climbed. "Where are you, Amy?" I was trying to think of a polite way to explain that I was running late because I had to walk up 11 flights of stairs when I tripped and fell, cutting my chin on a jagged piece of wood. By the time I reached the 11th floor, I was nearly crawling. The blood was trickling down the front of my shirt. I leaned against the wall, panting. The blood from my cut seeped into the strangely patterned carpet, which seemed to take it in, thirstily, without leaving so much as a stain. To my relief, the hall was mostly well lit, although there were areas where lights flickered off and on, leaving some sections dark. For the most part, I could see everything, from the dark walls to the heavy wooden doors of each room. I realized that there were no room numbers anywhere, at all. I sent out a message to ask how I was supposed to find room 1104, and the customer immediately wrote me back, "I'll find you." The light above me chose that moment to flicker and die. The moment it did, I was thrown into an absolute darkness like I'd never experienced before. It felt as if perhaps light had never existed in that place at all. There was just a deep, liquid blackness that forced its way into your nose and mouth, filling your lungs, threatening to drown you. Perhaps, I thought madly, perhaps I'd never seen light before at all. Maybe all I'd ever known was darkness. I walked, what felt like an eternity, far longer than the few feet of unilluminated hall I'd seen before. I went to brace myself against the wall, just to feel something solid against my fingertips, when I realized the halls weren't there. It hit me then that there was no guarantee I was even walking in the right direction. Crazy thoughts floated through my head. Maybe I'd be stuck there forever, breathing in the blackness, feeling it pour into my skull through empty sockets, because who needs eyes in a place without light? I found myself laughing hysterically at the thought. A wet, sputtering sound when I bumped into someone in the empty hallway. I say someone because I felt skin, and long hair against my bare arm when I brushed against them. "Sorry," I whispered out of habit, before remembering that there hadn't been anyone else in the hall moments before. I just felt something like impossibly long fingers brush against my wrist when the light flickered back to life. There was still no one else in the hallway with me. I was dazed, eyes trying to adjust to the sudden brightness as I read the message the customer had sent while I was lost in the darkness. "Found you." In the distance, I could make out what sounded like something dragging along the carpet. I looked up just in time to catch a brief glimpse of the source of the sound. It was pulling itself towards me, visible for only a moment before the lights in the section between us went off. The thought of that thing coming towards me, those black pinpoint eyes, its intense hunger, I could almost feel it on the air. With nothing between us except for the unlit hallway, filled me with a visceral fear unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. I couldn't let it catch me in the darkness. I didn't care if the customer complained. I didn't care if I got banned from the app. I frantically turned back the way I had come, which was once again in the shadows. I paused, desperately hoping that the light between me and the stairs would flicker back on. That black emptiness. No, it wasn't empty. It was too much. I trembled at the thought of forcing myself to go back in. The sound of the crawling from down the hall became louder, closer, and was enough to convince me that I couldn't wait. I needed to go back through the unlit section. It wouldn't be as bad as the second time. I lied to myself. I ran the entire way. At first, I tried holding my breath, but soon enough found myself gulping in lungfuls of the wet, stale air, choking on it as my airways began to close. I found myself again becoming disoriented, borderline hysterical, when something pulled at my clothes. Long fingers wrapped around my ankle, pulling me to the ground, dragging me backwards. It brought me back to my senses, and I did the only thing I could think to do. I swung the takeout order behind me as hard as I could. Styrofoam squealed as it connected with something solid. Whatever was in there with me, in the dark, released me for a moment. It was enough for me to get back on my feet and run until I reached the stairs, which I descended 2 steps at a time, wheezing. I really regretted not bringing my inhaler. I heard the sound of flesh against wood on the stairs above me. It moved fast, faster than I would have expected it to. I tried to balance speed with caution, because if I fell and it reached me, well, I knew I'd never get back up again. I made it to the lobby and bolted toward the exit just in time to hear it moving along the smooth marble behind me. I didn't look back. I ran until I was in my car and locked the doors. Only then, exhausted, did I finally glance back into the lobby. There was no one there. Although it felt as if days had passed, my phone said it was only 8:32. I'm still not sure what that place was. I've looked everywhere and I can't find any evidence that the building exists, or ever had. After that night, I couldn't work my delivery job anymore, even if I wanted to. I've tried signing into the app a few times, but every single order I've been offered since I ran out of the doors is for that same hotel, always room 1104. I'll decline it, and it'll pop up again and again. I still can't go into a dark room or sleep without the lights on. I'm so afraid that when the lights go out, they'll never come back on. For me, at least. I thought once I quit and uninstalled the app, it would finally be over. But then I started getting the texts. I still don't know how they even got my contact information, but I kept receiving, "Where are you, Amy?" over and over. I'd block one number and then get the same message from another. After a couple days, the texts finally stopped. And for the first time since the delivery, I no longer felt that suffocating sense of dread. Well, until a storm knocked out my power last night, and I woke up to a new text this morning. "Found you."